Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. As always, my name is Jonathan, joined by three of my co-workers and good friends, three guys I really respect in this fantasy game. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And real quick before we start, I just want to any of our subscribers, whether it's on the YouTube channel or on our podcast, I want to thank you guys so much for subscribing and be a part of this Masters family with us. If you haven't subscribed or hit the like button yet, not sure what you're waiting for, we're here to help you guys win a championship, and I believe these three guys here definitely can do that. If you're looking for a new league, Masters Fantasy Leagues, we've got over 600 Dynasty Leagues and counting. Definitely the best place to play. Today's episode is going to be buy nows for contending teams. In Dynasty Leagues, if you think you're close to the championship, we got some guys that we think can put you over the top and help you bring home the money and the hardware this year. So with that, we're going to jump right into it. Who wants to go first?
I can go if you want. No, you don't. Go ahead.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Age before beauty.
Yeah.
Age before beauty, that's it. So my buy now this is for contending teams, for somebody who's looking to win, and it's somebody you should be getting fairly cheap. It's somebody I think everybody's forgotten about, but Kenny Galladay. I'm not sure where he's going to end up, but I do know a couple things about him. He's been productive his entire career. In 2019, he was the number 7 wide receiver per game in fantasy points. But the other thing that what you forget about is that this year he only played 4 games, but he's actually averaging more points per game this year than last year.
Wow.
Now, I'm sure he's going to be number 1 wide receiver wherever he goes. Obviously, he's probably not going to be throwing to Matt Stafford unless they both end up in Indianapolis. But I think that, and I think he probably should get pretty reasonably priced.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, for
Yeah, I don't think you have to pay like elite price for him right now. But just sitting here thinking about a place I think he'd be great at, I'm just going to toss that out there.
Yeah, gosh, that just made me
I mean,
mad.
just imagine if he did sign with Baltimore or a team like that. I mean, dude, his value would skyrocket.
What if he was in that other team down there?
Which one?
Right here?
No. One closer.
That would
Oh
just be
my
unfair.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that need that big body receiver that Kenny Galladay can bring to the table. I mean, I feel like you could rattle off like 10 teams that would benefit from having him, and he'd be a stud there. I mean, gosh, I think he'd be a great fit for the Browns, even though they wouldn't spend more money on a receiver. I mean, yeah, I'm with you, John Beast. The fact that he got all those injuries this year, too, just couldn't really stay on the field. I think there's going to be some owners that are just like, you know what?
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to wait around, and perfect buy now candidate. I think he explodes next year.
I got a potential landing spot for him. I don't know if it hurts or helps his fantasy value, but he's from Chicago. We know Allen Robinson might be walking in free agency. Do you think Chicago could view him as a discount Allen Robinson, bring in Kenny Galladay to replace Allen Robinson, and depending on who's at quarterback there, would you still consider him a great buy if he ended up in Chicago?
I do.
And I do too, because Allen Robinson put up the numbers. Yeah.
He's got the talent.
Yeah.
And the size, like you said.
And I don't think that you're going to be looking at him as your 1 or 2 wide receiver. You'll be looking at him as your 3rd wide receiver on your team. I think he'd be fabulous.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I do think in the right system, he could be a top 5 wide receiver. He has all the tools.
He's got the tools for sure, yeah.
I completely agree. Good
I
take,
think-
John Beach.
I think in a lot of ways very similar to Allen Robinson, and Allen Robinson could still put up numbers there, and
Yeah, he
I like
can make it. He can make Mitch or Foles look good. So, I mean, anybody could, right? I mean, in that position, I mean, when you're that good, I trust Kenny G too. I like it.
All right,
So,
I'm going to go on one of my. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
age before beauty.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll just keep waiting. That's fine.
Yeah, I actually got another wide receiver I was looking at. That's going to be Adam Thielen. And just looking at his numbers, and just wanted to ask, like, where do you guys think Adam Thielen finished last year? Not to put you on the spot.
Say wide receiver 13.
I feel like he had to be top 10, right?
Yeah, he was 10.
Okay.
Which I mean, I think I was a little surprised by it.
Me too.
And what really has me liking Adam Thielen is Justin Jefferson, actually. I mean, Justin Jefferson, and it's something I've been thinking may deserve to be the number 1 pick in dynasty drafts, based on what he did last year, based on the longevity of the position. I think Justin Jefferson's hype from now until draft season is just going to continue to climb. And what that's going to mean for Adam Thielen is, he's just going to slide down another round or 2. He's 30, 31 years old. I think you can get a discount on him. And actually, if you look at it, Justin Jefferson did finish with more points than Adam Thielen. But Adam Thielen averaged more points per game. They were really close, I think 8, 10. Adam Thielen missed that one game. And one thing I like about Adam Thielen is, I mean, he did it with Diggs there. We see what Diggs is doing in Buffalo, maybe the best receiver in the NFL. Once again with Justin Jefferson, it doesn't matter. He's still going to get his points. Cousins is still going to throw in the ball. Here's a guy I think sliding down draft boards. If you're in a contending position, I don't think you got to give up a first for him. I think you could give up a second rounder, maybe a little add-in player. I think you could have Adam Thielen. I think he could really help you out this season.
Yeah, I love that take, especially because on one of the teams where I'm not a contender, I've been trying to shop Adam Thielen. No one's biting for a first-round pick. So that's all the proof you need. You could get him for pretty cheap.
Yeah, it'd be tough to get a first round.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
tried.
top 10, all he does is produce. And then one more guy that's kind of along the same line of thinking. I'm going with Amari Cooper. A little bit younger. I think it'll be a little bit tougher to get. But I'm just going with that rookie hype. I think CD Lamb, the hype's just going to continue to go. That's going to push Cooper down just a little bit. Was already a guy you could get in the third round. I think with CD Lamb there, you can see him sliding into the fourth round. I don't think he'll get him for a second, but maybe a late first rounder. The guy's still 26 years old. I personally think he's elite, and I think he can play in any system. Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, two guys I love for contending teams.
Yeah, they're hard for me to argue with either of those. Solid logic, too. I love it.
Thank you.
You finally want to go, Ryan?
Yeah, I guess I'll go, even though I'm younger than Alec. Let's see. So a big buy for me is Austin Eckler, and it's kind of on the same wavelength as John Beese on Kenny Galladay. I think a lot of people are just forgetting how good Austin Eckler actually is just because he missed quite a few games with injury this year. And we saw when he was on the field, Justin Herbert kind of slid right into where Phillip Rivers was. He had no issue dumping the ball off to Austin Eckler, getting him those touches out of the backfield. This dude's got legit top 10 running back potential every year if he can stay on the field just with how many receptions he gets. And, I feel like nobody's talking about him. I feel like he's forgotten just because of him missing all that time last year. The focus is on some of these other receivers like Justin Jefferson, all these young guys, the new faces in the league. But Austin Eckler's a guy that can win you a league. He's that good, and you could probably get him for pretty cheap just because, he's not a big goal line threat is one reason you could get him for cheap. Some people say he's too small, can't handle the 3-down load, all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. The numbers don't lie to me. Austin Eckler's a guy that's going to win you a league, like I said. And, yeah, now's the time to go get him, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a great take because I'm actually one of those guys. I'm not a big Austin Eckler guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's because he doesn't have the pedigree. He
Right.
doesn't have the big name. But he has produced when he's out there. I actually think it's a great take with a guy who's in the situation. I mean, he's set up to succeed next year.
Right.
I like it.
All right, so I guess I'm up with the last
Let's
round
hear it.
here. So I actually think he'd be the hardest guy to go get out of any guy we named so far, but I still think there's a buying opportunity there. That's Tampa Bay receiver Chris Godwin. We know a year ago he went nuts and was the number 2 receiver in fantasy football. Then this year in comes Tom Brady. The numbers dipped some, but still played really good football. He actually missed 4 games with injury, and I think about the other 12 games he played, he was playing them hurt. He had hamstring injuries. He was playing with 2 of his fingers taped together for half the league, was still making some great plays. So, still in his mid-20s, so kind of like Amari Cooper, even younger than Amari. Got a lot of good football left, but if you're a contender, he just finished as the wide receiver 15 on a points per game basis, rather than just a year ago when he was top 3. There's a way to slide in there and get him now, and I know Tom Brady's future is a little uncertain. I think he'll be back for one more year, which I don't even know if it helps or hurts Godwin. The truth is, Mike Evans got a lot of the red zone targets, but outside of that, Chris Godwin was his guy. I mean, if you were looking at the box score, Godwin was getting the majority of the targets, getting the majority of the catches. The yards and touchdowns will always follow that. If he's healthy next year, I think he's easily a top 10 receiver at the end of the year. Still entering the prime of his career. And on top of that, he's an unrestricted free agent. So Tampa's either going to pay him and keep him there, or he's going to go somewhere that wants him an awful lot. So no matter what, I think he's going to be a guy who's used a lot in the next few years. Because of that drop-off, there is a buying opportunity, and I think this could be one of the rare times you can get a top 5 dynasty receivers for. We saw it with Hopkins that one year. I mean, not saying he's Hopkins good, but
Right.
that one down year that Hopkins had, all of a sudden there was a buying opportunity there. So I think this is one of those situations with Godwin. If you can get him, go get him. And
Yeah, I like that a
Let him
lot.
win you a league next year.
Yeah, I really like it. And as you're talking, I'm sitting here thinking, like, he's not in the greatest situation for a wide receiver with Mike Evans, you got Antonio Brown, Scotty Miller, Gronk, Cameron Brate. In most cases, Chris Godwin should be a number one. He should be getting the majority of the targets from his quarterback, and that's not happening this year, but I do agree. I think if not next year, the following year, he'll take on that role as a number one. I do think you could see some top 5 seasons out of Chris Godwin again. That's actually a really good take.
I feel like anytime I watched when he was actually healthy, he looked incredible this year. And Brady does look his way a lot. And, you know, I mean, what do you guys, do you think Antonio Brown goes back to Tampa Bay next year?
I don't know. Seems like he's happy. You know, but Tom Brady, as long as he can control him.
I mean, don't they share like bunk beds?
Yeah.
Tom Brady. I almost feel like for sure he's going back. It's so weird that that's Tom's guy too.
I know,
A little
it
bit.
is strange.
So he's
But-
like, you know, so clean.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it is interesting, but I feel like that does kind of limit Godwin a little bit too, obviously. But that's another thing that's not super long term.
And I don't disagree at all, but I think that's what kind of creates the spot because everybody
Right.
feels that way. Like, oh, Tampa Bay's got Mike Evans, they've got Antonio Brown. So they're not that they're looking at Godwin as the third guy, but it just creates enough uncertainty where Godwin owners are willing to deal him right now.
yeah, and if you'd have went back to a year ago today, like you said, a top 3 finish,
Everyone was saying no
it was
way.
tough to
Yeah.
get. You
Yeah, I
probably
mean,
weren't going to get him.
Yeah, a year
Yeah.
ago, if you looked at Dynasty receiver rankings, I mean, he was in the top. It was like Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Hopkins. Like these guys were all right there in the top 5 Dynasty receivers. Now he's maybe Dynasty receiver 12, and I think in reality he's closer to 5 than 12.
It's crazy how that changes so quickly.
I know, yeah.
You know,
Season.
you're just saying those names. Michael Thomas is another one. I mean, I don't know what he's going to cost. He may cost too much, but you know, yeah, he obviously he was terrible this year, going from pick number 5 in your startup drafts
Right.
to actually have no value at all. You know, I mean, he got value, but he had no value this season. And in 2019, even in weeks 2 to 7, when Teddy Bridgewater was throwing the ball, he was still wide receiver 1. But having said all that, I think I really wasn't planning on this guy. I just thought of it when you guys were talking. I'm looking over at Jonathan, Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because he wasn't doing very good before, but don't kid yourself. Odell Beckham Jr. is the best wide receiver in the Cleveland Browns. It's not. I don't think he's relatively.
Agreed.
I mean, he's a great wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, if he can stay on the field, and I mean, that's honestly the only thing limiting him. Maybe being in Cleveland too. I mean, who knows if he stays in Cleveland or goes somewhere else. I do think next year, if he were to stay healthy and stay in Cleveland, would be his most productive year, just because it seems like that's the way the Browns are moving. So I really like that take a lot. And Michael Thomas too. I mean, even though he had a rough year this year with injuries. Punching Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the face like every other receiver in the league this year, it seems like. But, I really don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. But like you said, I mean, I don't think it really matters. Like, Sean Payton's going to scheme up ways to get him the ball. And I think he's going to have a big bounce back year.
Hey, with Jameis Winston, he was number 2 a couple years ago.
That would probably be the best thing for him, honestly. Jameis doesn't care. He'll just
And you're
throw.
fancy. Who cares? He throw 30 touchdowns, 30 picks and 35 touchdown passes. All works out.
Yeah, exactly.
Let Chris Godwin sign in New Orleans, bring Jameis back, and Michael Thomas and Godwin are doing what Evans and Godwin did that one year with Jameis.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. I like that.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it's a great, and I think out of all the guys listed, like Odell's kind of slid underneath all of those guys in the rankings over the last 2 seasons. I don't have it in front of me, but we spoke about it the one day. I mean, we had some dynasty leagues where Odell was going to 1.
Yeah.
The 1.1. He was that good. He was.
Yeah. There was like a whole off
whole
season.
year,
Like he was like the consensus number 1. And then like Antonio Brown and Julio were like number 2 and number 3.
Right.
And then we shifted into the McCaffrey, Kamara, Saquon era. But it was we had a span where it was Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown, and Julio Jones were the top 3 picks. Like
No one can catch like Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, no one can. I mean, he is one hand.
Yeah, again, he's just got to stay on the field.
Back
That's
to
it.
that's right.
Yeah.
There's a reason that they were force feeding the ball. Baker's force feeding him.
Yeah.
They wasn't working out, but he was force feeding because he's the best.
Yeah, that Dallas game was the first time you actually got to see what he was still capable of. It's been a while since you saw that. I mean, he can just take a game over.
And I think now that this Cleveland team finally has some continuity and, it's gelling, I feel like Odell will actually be able to fit in seamlessly rather than, before it was the disaster we were just trying to get rolling and it just wasn't working. But now that I feel like they've got some momentum, Odell will be able to come in and just almost a more seamless transition.
And I'll be honest, like Odell Beckham was such a huge figure in the sports world. Kind of felt bad for Baker Mayfield at times. Like, imagine a guy like that coming on your team. You feel obligated to get him the ball. You feel obligated to run the offense through him, no matter what's going on the field. He was just that big of a figure. I think with Cleveland Browns' success without Odell Beckham, I think that'll really help him coming back in. I think Baker Mayfield. And I'm not saying that he couldn't before, but I think Baker Mayfield's able to stand a little bigger in the huddle, look at Odell Beckham, and like, I run this offense, and you're a part of it. I think that'll help.
Yeah.
And I still think Odell will be explosive, but I think that's what he needs from Baker Mayfield. I think that'll help his confidence. I think it's a great take. And I did pick up Baker Mayfield. I paid a late first-round pick for him. I was a contender last year. I think it was like 7-2. Started maybe a little earlier this season. Traded a first-round pick for him.
For who?
For Odell Beckham.
Okay, you said Baker. That's
No, for Odell, for one of my late-round, first-round picks. He got hurt, it didn't work out, but every time I look at that team, I look at Odell, and I'm still happy with him, man.
It's funny because when you said that, though, I thought, Baker Mayfield's not a bad buy for a contender either.
Honestly.
I mean, we finally saw him look the way he looked his rookie season after, what seemed like forever of him not looking too good. And you know what? Odell's coming back, another year in the Stefanski system. And you could probably still get him for dirt cheap because I still think there's a lot of people that don't believe that Baker Mayfield's got the goods, but I mean,
you get Baker cheap.
Yeah.
You get him cheap.
And he could win you games.
He was flat out on our waiver wire.
I saw him dropped in
Dropped.
Masters.
But he was awesome in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
Basically, after Odell went out, he was really good. Besides those weird weather games.
And we did a show. I told you guys. I think it was weeks 12 to 15. Top 3 quarterbacks in the league
crazy.
without Odell Beckham.
Exactly.
So that's another guy. I'd absolutely go get him. Probably get him for a second rounder easily.
Oh, easy. I think a third.
Probably a
We're a
third.
third and a young guy.
Unless you're trading with like a diehard Browns fan. Yeah.
It's always hard to go to, because in our league, I'll go to his team name is the Brownies.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to trade and get. It just doesn't work.
That's that's a good clue. The Brownies get,
Alex, do you have another one?
I do. So kind of a completely different direction, just because it's a position group we haven't talked about yet on this show. And that's the tight end group. I'm looking for George Kittle to have a huge bounce back year. Obviously, it was the injuries that derailed last season. I think a lot of these dynasty owners who have had George Kittle, they've seen him miss more games than he's played recently, and I think that gets frustrating. We all have those guys who are just constantly hurt, and in the offseason we get fed up and we trade him. George Kittle is for sure a top 3 talent. I mean, he's a top 2 talent at the tight end position. If he can just stay healthy, he will put up monster numbers like Travis Kelce did this year. And we saw it with Kelce this year. Having that elite tight end is just the difference maker in your fantasy lineups.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard. There's only 3 of them.
Yeah, and I know it's like an impossible time to buy Travis Kelce because he just had that amazing year. And he's 31, so you don't want to,
Yeah.
You're buying too high if you're buying, but I'll tell you this. If Travis Kelce is owned by a guy who's not a contender, and you are, throw out some Kelce offers. Offer, a younger running back and receiver, because if you have a solid team and are just missing a tight end, I mean, Travis Kelce will just make you a championship winner right now in the summer.
Yeah.
He's that good.
I like it. I think if you are looking at a team that's losing, that has Kelce on it, I think you can probably give him a first rounder.
Yeah.
If you're a contender, you're looking at, pick 1 through 7 through 12. I think that's a great trade.
So,
I think it's possible that a guy do that.
What's funny is one of my leagues, it's actually a really ironic story. So this one guy did not have a very strong team for the most part. I felt like my roster was pretty good, but I needed a tight end. He had Kelce. So I was offering Josh Jacobs for Kelce, thinking, you need a young franchise running back. Kelce's not doing much for you. You're kind of rebuilding. Sure enough, he made the playoffs at 6-6. I kid you not, he beat me in the championship with Travis Kelce. If I could show you the rosters, I had, all of these surefire studs, and he had guys like J.D. McKissick and all these one Jeffrey Wilson, but then Travis Kelce. And the difference maker in that game was Travis Kelce. He refused to trade me all year, and it worked out for him.
That's funny because if you weren't saying Kelsey, I would have thought you were talking about the league we were in. Because I beat you guys with McKissick. These guys were loaded.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It happens, man. You just got to keep plugging away every week.
You know,
Never give up.
I've got to look at stats. I looked at them earlier today, and I can't remember, but I think the Redskins had 2 top 12 running backs, McKissick
And
Gibson.
and Gibson.
I bet that's
and
right.
McLaren. I mean, I could be off too. I could have the week short, maybe week 8 to 16. I really don't. I just remember seeing McKissick and it's like a shock.
Yeah, I had McKissick on a ton of redraft teams just because, I mean, they would just dump it off to him all the time. That's the beauty of having Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith, because neither of them, Haskins didn't really trust pushing the ball down the field, and Alex Smith physically couldn't, and you just get a ton of dump off catches.
One week I saw he had like 13 catches.
Oh,
or
yeah, a ton, yeah.
So I just fact checked myself, and I just pulled it up. This is the championship league game. My starting lineup: Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh my God.
His Russell Wilson, J.D. McKissick, Jeffrey Wilson, Cole Beasley, Robert Woods, and Travis Kelce. I got blown out with Mahomes, Aaron Jones, Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, and DeAndre Hopkins. I got blown out. In the championship.
Yeah, that's perfect example right there. You got to invest in the tight end.
Yeah.
And, hey, go watch videos. Alec and I talking about Kyle Pitts and Pat Fryermuth. We just did a new one of that about him. I mean, tight ends, they're a big difference maker in fantasy. Like I just plugged a different show right there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, I got one more buy too that I wanted to say, and I'm gonna go with Cortland Sutton, and I feel like he's completely forgotten about. Missed the entire season with an injury. I just think he was so good the year before. Like, he made Drew Lock look really good. Who, nobody could really do that this year except maybe like Tim Patrick, of all people. It wasn't Jerry Jeudy, which made me feel a lot better about Cortland Sutton. And I also think, there's so much turnover coming with quarterbacks. I think Denver's in a better position next year than they are right now at quarterback, just because I feel like there's so many guys out there. They're bound to land one of these good quarterbacks that are moving on, whether it be Stafford or, whoever else.
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I don't know if they could pull Deshaun Watson, but, I mean, who knows? Somebody will, and it very well could be them, and that's a huge upgrade. Cortland Sutton, similar to Kenny Galladay, honestly, in terms of body. He's going to be that big body receiver. He'll get you those red zone targets. Add in the fact that he's just an all-around good receiver anyways. I mean, I'm sold, and you can get him for basically nothing because I feel like most people probably forget he's even in the league right now. So go buy him. He's a guy that could make a big difference on your team next year.
Yeah, and another guy, since you're speaking on Cortland Sutton, I'm going to say Jerry Jeudy. And I actually think that's a situation that's going to help Jeudy. And I look at the other 2 rookie wide receivers that we just can't get enough of: Justin Jefferson, C.D. Lamb, had Amari Cooper, had Adam Thielen. I think Jeudy could have had a season like that with Sutton taking off the pressure as a number 1. I think it's going to help him next year. I honestly think you could get Jeudy really cheap too. And it's a guy who didn't have the greatest quarterback play. Drew Lock missed some weeks. And I think an upgrade and add something into that offense, I think it could help Jeudy too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He was a little shaky with his hands, just inconsistent with some of that stuff, but I don't think that's something that's going to last. I mean, Judy's a solid prospect, about as solid as they come.
Right.
So I agree. I think Cortland Sutton coming back would be huge for him. And then again, hopefully a good quarterback in Denver makes all the difference.
My guy over here made a prediction a year ago, said it'd be Aaron Rodgers. I still think it's possible.
It's
Actually, a good one.
Just like John Elway brought in Peyton Manning, I think you should be calling up Aaron Rodgers right now. Like, hey, you see what me and Peyton did? Come get you another trophy.
And I think it's even more fitting now that Aaron Rodgers just lost to Tom Brady, who left New England to go somewhere with more weapons like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Right. Maybe that's just everything Aaron Rodgers needs to go leave and try and do the same elsewhere.
Yep, and I've been saying it for years, just like in the NBA, I think we're going to start seeing it more and more in the NFL, these little super teams, guys pairing up. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg.
The other thing with Brady, though, he went to Tampa Bay, which is warm. Maybe San Francisco, which is warm.
Yeah,
That's another good
California guy.
spot.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I like it.
Gosh, him with Kyle Shanahan, that would be ridiculous.
Ayuk and Debo and
The
Kittle.
receivers, yeah, that's good stuff.
We'll have to do another show on that sometime.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. That's going to wrap up today's show. Once again, if you hit that like and subscribe button, we'd love you to become part of the Masters family. Thank you so much for listening.
Boom.